Good evening and welcome to the March 26th meeting of the Arts, Cultural, and Historic Preservation Commission. Tonight's agenda is available on the counter along with the request to speak cards. A reminder to everyone that request to speak cards should be completed and turned in to the clerk prior to the completion of any staff presentation. For those speakers wishing to speak on an item not on the agenda, please within the jurisdiction of this commission, please write the item number on your card. All speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and televised, so all speakers, in order to be recognized, must be called upon by the chair and come forward to the microphone. Speaking in public may cause some individuals to be uncomfortable, so everyone is asked to be professional and respectful at all times. And with that, move on to General Administration Function, Part 1. Oh, sorry, Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Anthony. With that, move on to General Administration Function, Part 1, 1A.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Chairman Seals, Vice Chair Hayashi,
Present?
Commissioner Clower, Commissioner Lozano, Commissioner McMichael,
Present.
Commissioner Volkar,
Present.
Commissioner Jordan.
Present.
We have a quorum.
All right, and with that, we will move on to the General Administration Function. 1A, Election of the Commission Chair and Vice Chair. Do I have anybody that would like to nominate anybody for the...
I'll nominate Denise Seals for chair again.
Okay.
Second.
All
You will
those-
then ask if there are any other nominations.
Are there any other nominations?
Okay, now you can call the vote.
Okay. I'm sorry?
Now you can call the vote. All in,
Okay. All in,
You're
all in
doing
favor?
fine.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any, well, no nays. With that, Denise Seals would be continuing as our chair. Is there a nomination for vice chair?
Yes, I nominate Sam.
I would like to nominate Julia. How do we?
Okay, first you have a nomination on the floor, so you
Okay.
need to see if there's any seconds to that
Okay.
nomination.
Any seconds?
Okay, I'll second that nomination.
Okay, so then you've asked for
No,
another
no,
nomination.
Oh.
Sorry, I didn't.
So Julia's made the nomination for Sam Hayashi. Anthony has seconded that nomination. You will then ask if there is any additional nominations, of which you then nominated Julia, and then you have to look for a second for
Okay,
that
are there any
nomination.
additional nominations?
I will second Julia's nomination.
Okay, so now you're going to have a vote on the first nomination for Sam Hayashi as the vice chair. And so there's one of two things that can happen. You can decline the nomination, either one of you, or you can ask for a vote on each.
I'd like to decline my nomination.
Okay, so if he's declined the nomination, since he's declined it, then you can just go on to the, I think,
You need a second.
he got a second, Anthony seconded it. So Sam Hayashi has nominated Julia McMichael, Anthony has seconded that, now you'll call the vote for that.
Do we have who's in favor of the nomination?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Any opposed?
I can vote. I'm not recused. Aye. Sure.
There you go.
All right. With that, Julia McMichael is now the vice chair. Okay. Yay. Okay. we move on to 1B, or?
Well, now that Julia McMichael is the vice chair, she needs to run the balance of the meeting because the chair is absent.
And could staff tell me what define commission communications for me?
That is if you have any communications that you wish to give us. But we're currently going to 1B. Or if we have communications for you, like written letters and things of that sort.
Seeing no members of the public, I move on to 1C,
Correct.
commission communications. Do any commissioners have any ideas or thoughts they'd like to bring forward at this time?
Actually, I apologize, Vice Chair. That this item, Commission Communications, is for staff to provide you with communications. At the end of the meeting, we do have availability for commissioners to give us future item requests under 5C. So 1C is for us to provide you with communications that may have come into the city for you directly. I apologize for the confusion.
Great. In the future, could we say something like commission communications from staff or staff communications to the commission?
These are pretty standard agendas,
Oh,
because you'll see,
okay.
so it's Commission Communications, it's pretty much known that. And then if you look at 5C, that's where you can give us direction. So this is the template. And
Thank
it's-
you.
It's just
Thank
my
you.
mistake.
You may have
for-
to correct me monthly, but
No, that's all
thank you.
right. Well, Denise will be back. I got a little confused myself. I apologize.
That's okay. Does staff have any communications to the commission at this time?
No.
Seeing none, I move on to approval or corrections of the minutes of the September 25th meeting. And I have a couple. Twice, we've brought up the entrance to West Sacramento, the rail line homeless camp, and the signage by a private employer that really kind of is not a good entrance to the city. And also, I don't see the workshop that the commission asked for anywhere on the previous minutes of September 25th. Are there any other observations by the commissioners?
Commissioner McMichael, Vice Chair McMichael, excuse me. Minutes are action items only. However, staff has noted those directional items, and I actually sent a follow-up email to the commission regarding the homeless camp. We'd be happy to resend that. So minutes only reflect action items. So that's why you don't see, like, you'll say, hey, what's going on with this? It is only action.
And the workshop, that's not an action item?
It is not an action item. It's not something that you've taken a vote on.
Seeing no corrections then to the action items noted on the minutes?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, I hear an approve and second. All in favor of approving the minutes as
Aye.
submitted? Aye?
Aye. Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, who first and who motioned and who seconded?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you.
On the regular agenda, item number 3, workshop on the Parks and Open Space Master Plan update key findings to date. Tracy Mitchell, am I pronouncing that correctly?
It's Michael.
Michael. Well, Julia McMichael should know how to pronounce your name. I apologize. Business manager. Would you like to address the commission on this report?
Yes, thank you so much, Commissioners, for the opportunity to provide you an update on the Parks and Open Space Master Plan update effort. I do have a presentation, if we can get that on the screen. Thank you. The purpose of this item is to bring you up to speed on what we've been working on since we last made a presentation to this commission, which was in fall of last year, and also to get your feedback on the information I'm going to share with you today, which includes a lot of demographic and survey information, as well as some key findings and emerging issues that we're starting to see as we go through this process. Just to touch base on the desired outcomes that we established as we launched the effort. I'm not going to read through all of them, but I think what's important to note is that we do have some operational items on here, which are really important for a master planning effort. because you want to make sure you have an operationally sustainable environment in order to implement the master plan. So I just wanted to highlight that. Demographics and trends. We did run updated demographic information, and I would like to say, before I get too far into this, that the last time we had a presentation with Arts Commission, I can't remember if our consultant, Michael Svets, was here with Pros Consulting, so he couldn't be here tonight, so I'm trying to channel my inner Michael Svets for you, and hope that I can answer all of your questions at the end of the presentation. We did run updated demographic information through Esri for this effort, and so it's a little more current than what you may have seen with some other recent planning efforts, specifically the General Plan 2035 process. We are seeing that these numbers are very closely aligned with the demographic information shared as part of the General Plan update, and we are making sure as we go through this process to cross-reference those so that the information's tracking correctly. On population, we have a community that's continuing to grow at a slightly higher rate than the national average. We are looking at our projections out for a 15-year horizon. We have a 10-year master plan that we're developing, and that is per the general plan requirements. Every 10 years, we shall have a Parks and Open Space master plan that is updated to remain current. But we're projecting out 15 years because we know that towards the end of that 10-year cycle, you need to have some additional years of information in order to plan for the next update, as well as to address kind of projects and planning that's in process during those transitions. So we've projected out a little bit beyond the 10-year horizon. With our age segmentation, it's pretty balanced right now. We do have an aging trend. 35% of our population by 2032 will be 55 and older, and that's just important to note as we develop our future facilities and programming. We are, as I mentioned, making sure that this information tracks with the general plan document as well as our active aging plan. Ethnicity, culture is, and ethnicity is really important because different cultures recreate differently. So it's just kind of interesting to look out and see where the growth and shifts are in our community. Over a third of our population by 2032 will have Hispanic origins. Income. What we're seeing with our income in this chart is that we are comparing West Sacramento, both per capita income and median household income, with the state and the nation. We do have lower income levels than the state average and even some of our regional neighboring cities. And that's just important for us to know because as we continue to provide quality programming and facilities, we may need to focus a little less on cost recovery just because we can't be expected to charge the same rates for some of our programs as our neighboring cities and expect our community to participate in those programs. We did complete a tapestry segmentation analysis, and that was included in detail in your agenda packet. But this is just a little bit different way of looking at our community. It's about lifestyles, about how people live their lives, and what this chart shows is that there are these tapestry segments that make up more than half of our community when compared to the U.S. Those same tapestry segments make up under 9%. So it just shows that our community is unique and that we have to incorporate that uniqueness into our planning process. Just by way of example, in your packet, it goes into detail about which each of those tapestry segment lifestyle characteristics are, and I find it interesting. Front porches is our highest category, and that segment is likely to participate in leisure activities. They use and are highly skilled with technology and social media, which is going to come into play a little bit later on with some of the information I share. Market Potential Index, this just measures the demand for participation in a variety of activities. What we looked at were general sports, market potential, how we compare to the national average. The red line shows the national average, so any bars that are above or below just show how we compare to the national average. And really when it comes to general sports, we're tracking pretty much in line with the national average. We do have a little higher demand for volleyball. With fitness, again, we're tracking, fairly close to the national average. And the same with outdoor activities. So what this shows us is that we are a community that has demand for a lot of different activities. There really isn't one activity that's going to drive our parks and recreation planning effort. Like in some communities, our consultant was mentioning that you could have some particular uses that score in the 200%. We're not seeing that here. We have a community that likes to do a lot of different things.
So is all this data coming from Esri? Is this?
Yes.
Okay. I do GIS for a living, so
Okay.
it's interesting to.
I'm going to double check on the tapestry segmentation. I'm pretty sure that's an Esri based.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially the names.
So we developed a project website for this planning effort, and we have been using it to collect input, both in the form of survey, and we also just have an opportunity at any given time for members of the community to provide open-ended comments on the Parks and Recreation system. We put together just kind of a fun word cloud that identifies some of the key words that have come from the open-ended comments. And just by way of promoting the website, you can access a link on our Parks Department homepage, westsacfund.org, to the Parks Master Plan update, or you can go directly to planwestsacparks.com, and that takes you to the Parks Master Plan website as well. We conducted intercept surveys from December through February, which are sometimes called Caught in the Act surveys as well. We had a SurveyMonkey link that people could use, or they could fill out a hard copy form of the survey. We made those available at our rec center, at the community center, and here at City Hall. So a lot of people who come to City Hall to pay their utility bills had an opportunity to fill out the surveys. We also administered it to our preschool families, and got some really good feedback from those surveys. We had almost 470 surveys returned, which was great. We asked 3 basic questions in that survey. What is your need for facilities? What is your need for programming? And what is your overall level of satisfaction with the services? And so I'm going to touch on the need for facilities and programming in a moment. On the overall satisfaction, we saw some really great responses in the very and somewhat satisfied categories. We had a little uptick in the somewhat dissatisfied that we think is directly related to everything that was going on in Memorial Park during the time the survey was being administered. So we had a little bit of misinformation out there that we've come to a really good place now with the planning process for that park that we'll touch on a little bit later today. But we think that was sort of an anomaly. On the park facility and amenity needs, the top 15, you see walking and biking trails, large community parks, shaded play areas, open space conservation areas. These are really indicative of kind of the other market index information. We have a community that likes to do a lot of different things, and this does reflect some of your more traditional parks and rec types of facilities. On the programming side, for this particular survey instrument, we saw a lot of feedback geared towards kids, which makes sense because we are a family-oriented community. There's a little bit different response on programming that we've received from some of our other survey methods that I'll touch on in a moment. We completed a statistically valid survey for this effort, and I'm curious if anyone on the commission received one in the mail?
Sure.
You did?
Yes.
Great. Did you have an opportunity to fill it out?
Of course I did.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, as you know, you filled it out. It was not an open-ended survey. We have very focused questions in that, and the survey was distributed to residents, not all residents citywide, strategically distributed in order to get geographically and demographically representation of the city. We mailed a letter with the survey, and the folks who received it could either choose to go online. There was a website link with a special code that they could use one time only to complete the survey online, or you could complete it in hard copy form and mail it back in. We conducted the survey in October and November, and we received more responses than we needed to have that 95% level of confidence and a shorter time period than we thought we would get. So we're really pleased with the results. This is a map that just has the plots of the survey responses received. So you can see that we received responses from people in our residential portions of the city, which is what we were targeting. So the survey is important because this particular survey reflects information from both users and non-users of our system. So the intercept surveys, we're kind of catching people that are already using city facilities in some way. This is nice because we have an opportunity to capture information from people who might not be using our facilities. We asked a series of questions to help us understand what facilities people are using. And this chart just summarizes those different areas we asked about: parks, trails, riverfront, rec center, community center. The national benchmark for visitation of parks and trails is about 79%. So we are slightly under that, but we think this is a reflection that we have a system that just needs to grow and evolve as our community does too. We also asked households to rate the condition of these same facilities, and the national benchmark for excellent condition rating of parks, trails, and facilities is 31%. You can see here that our rec center and community centers scored very, very high. They're newer facilities, so so that's not a surprise. We have slightly lower ratings with our trails and parks, but we know there's some room for improvement. But what it shows is that we do have a really good foundation from which our maintenance plan is being implemented, and so we can just continue to grow that. We asked how households learn about our programs, and this will tie back to that tapestry segmentation information in a moment. The number one way people learn about our programs and activities is by word of mouth through friends and neighbors. The second is our city website, and then you can see some of the other options that kind of drop off significantly. Our community is, as I switch to the next slide, when we ask them how they prefer to learn about our programs and activities, you can see the number one item is emails, and then city website, and then Facebook. And so it's just kind of interesting because these front porch, the highest portion of our tapestry segment that are technically savvy, that's indicative of the way that people would like to learn about our programs. Rather than word of mouth, they would prefer to directly have access to the information electronically. And so that's something that we can definitely target as we look at how we market our programs in the future. Program participation and quality. We asked people if they participate in programs. 37% said yes, which is higher than the national benchmark of 34%. People think our programs are of good quality or they wouldn't be participating in them, and we're offering the right kind of programs or our participation rate wouldn't be so high. We asked them to rate the overall quality of recreation, and this is where we hit it out of the ballpark. The national benchmark for excellent ratings is 36%. We had over 51% rated our programs as excellent. So it means our programming staff is doing a great job of offering programs that are relevant and at times that work for people as well. We asked for those households who have not participated in our programs why they haven't participated, and the number one response was that they didn't know what was offered. So while we have really good programs and we know that the people who are using them rate them very highly, there is a tremendous opportunity to grow our programs because a lot of people don't know about them. And as we tailor our marketing to the ways that people prefer to hear about our programs, there's just a tremendous opportunity for us to grow. Then the next highest category was too busy, not interested, and that one's a bit of a challenge because there's only so much space we have to offer programs, and so we just have to make sure that we're offering the right programs at times that work for people. And again, if we're marketing them, the way that our community prefers to hear about information, then hopefully we can get those numbers down a little bit. Facility and amenity needs. We asked about a lot of questions about facilities in order to understand what's important to the community and where they have unmet needs. So the top 5 facility needs are about people really getting out and using our park system in more passive ways. We have nature parks, botanical gardens, walking and biking trails. That's just going to keep coming up again and again. Covered picnic areas, open space and conservation areas, shaded play areas. So people who want to be outside and they want to have an opportunity to spend more time outside. So we've gotten a lot of feedback on having shade offered. Oops. Facilities that are most important to households, trails, small neighborhood parks, swimming pools, aquatic, water-related. We did have a lot of interest in having access to water features, whether they be formal or passive water features. And we're tracking, as you can see, fairly close to the national standards in those categories. On the programming side, well, we asked about programs that help us understand where there are unmet programming needs. Exercise classes and adult fitness and wellness classes came out on top. And then community special events was next. There is a little bit of an anomaly in here that I wanted to call out. The 4th item is the ice rink. We brought this up at the Parks Commission meeting as well. It's a little bit of a head scratcher. It doesn't necessarily mean that the city needs to go out and build an ice rink, but there is interest and an unmet need there, so it might be that we partner with a neighboring city to help promote that program, offer it seasonally here, just something to keep in the back of our minds. When we asked about the programs that are most important to households, the 3 top programs were exercise classes, adult fitness and wellness, and community special events, which were closely aligned to to the facility needs as well. Getting into public support, we asked some questions that would help us understand how we might have our community advocate for the department. So it's not just about asking for a wish list, but these statements all point to the value that the community sees in our Parks and Recreation program, and they just all scored very highly, with the exception of the very last one, which is about using Parks and Recreation to promote tourism for the city. All of the others were, just scored very high. And what that means is that we have a really strong advocacy in this community for our Parks and Recreation system. We also asked what types of improvements households would be most willing to fund. This is really important for this master planning effort to understand where people would prioritize their funding. And what you see in this chart is that taking care of what we have is very important to the respondents of the survey. Trails, and then riverfront, which also is a lot of trails too, connecting green spaces along the riverfront through our trails. We asked about the level of satisfaction with the overall value households receive from the Parks and Recreation Department. And the national benchmark for very satisfied is 27%. Ours is 14%. We think this ties back to the fact that we have a Parks and Rec system that's still evolving and trying to keep pace with the growth of the city. So we need to focus on the areas that people are most interested in using. And what that gets us to is the community needs assessment. So our consultant team took all of the survey information and the demographic information and the market trend information and put that into their formula and came up with a prioritization of needs for our facilities and our programming. So I wanted to walk through those with you. On the park facility and amenity prioritized needs, we have 3 categories: a high, a medium, and low. And that doesn't mean that we're not going to do things in all of those categories. It just means that when we're trying to be strategic about how we invest our resources, we take these prioritizations into consideration. So the highest and greatest prioritization: walking and biking trails, nature parks, open space, swimming pools, covered picnic areas, large community parks, shaded play areas. And this top tier really includes uses that appeal to the entire community. They're not age specific, they have broad-based appeal. The middle category, you start seeing that we get into a little more specific types of uses, more interest-based uses. And then the lower category, we have a need for them, but not necessarily a broad-based need, so they just might not be as high of a priority. With programs and services, this is where we had a little bit of a switch. When you factor in the weighted criteria, the community special events wound up on top as a priority over adult fitness and wellness programs. Now, this is not a 1 through 30 ranking, but it does point to a higher priority in some of the uses that, again, are a little more broad-based for the community.
Going back to the slide, could I interject with a question just on that one slide?
Yes.
Seeing the growth in the senior segment of our population and senior programs only a medium level, is that because the growth is projected in the future?
Not necessarily. I mean, it doesn't mean we're not going to focus on the medium priority items at all. In fact, we will. It's just that how we offer them and how we invest in them might be a little different than some of the higher priority items.
What would be the difference between senior programs and senior fitness programs? I mean, why aren't those two in one category?
Senior programs that aren't fitness specific. So we offer a lot of senior programs that don't have anything to do with fitness classes, like they might be arts and crafts type classes, scrapbooking classes, computer technology types of classes. And so in just evaluating, our space, the use of space and our investment in resources to run the programs, the senior fitness classes, if they rank higher, might be where we prioritize the use of space or resources versus non-fitness related programs, just based on the needs.
Thank you.
Emerging issues that are starting to develop. I wanted to touch on these. I think they're exciting, and we're seeing some interesting things evolve. The first is economic development through park development. We have been closely coordinating with our economic development staff, and will continue to do that as we see a real opportunity for economic development to be part of park development and for park development to be part of economic development. In fact, some cases park development may even be kind of at the forefront of economic development. And so we're excited about some of the opportunities. You will hear in a future meeting from Katie Yancey of all the work that she's doing in Pioneer Bluffs and Stone Lock, and there's just some great opportunities there for our park developments to serve as economic development features in that area. So we're going to continue to work on that. Recreation Center business plan update. We actually took that item to council last week, and council approved the contract amendment with Pros Consulting as part of this Parks and Open Space Master Plan update to update the Recreation Center business plan. There's a scope of work for that proposal in your packet. And the purpose of this is really to look at updating the business plan because it's dated anyway. We have many years of operating the facility now, so we know more now than we did when we first developed the plan, which is when the rec center opened, about how we can program and operate and maintain the facility. But looking at that through the lens of making it more financially sustainable so that we can reduce the reliance on general fund subsidies for the rec center.
Could you direct me to the scope of work page for the new funding of the plan?
It's attachment 3, I believe, in the staff report.
Thank you.
Let me find the page. real
Thank you.
It doesn't have a page number on it, but it's attachment 3, so it's actually the last few pages of your packet. It starts right here on attached. It says attachment 3. After all the demographic information. Were you able to find it?
I think so, yes.
Okay, it's titled Attachment 3, has the Pros Consulting letterhead. That's a cover letter and then their proposal follows with the proposed scope of work. We also have, as additional emerging issues, we have the Westmore Oaks School Site Reuse Plan and Memorial Park. We're making progress on both of those sites. We do have an opportunity with Washington Unified School District at their request to look at the Westmore Oaks School Site, which is the former River City High School site, to see if there's opportunities for the city to help make improvements to the playfields that can benefit both the school and help us to provide more athletic programming opportunities in the city. We do know that we will have a need for more playfields, and we also know that we need to provide relief to our existing park sites in order to give them time to recover from the different athletic programs. And so this is going to be a really good opportunity for us as we continue to move forward with the school district and work with them. Taking care of what we already have is a theme that we've seen through the survey information. Trails, creating advocacy through and awareness. We know that there's the potential there. We have a lot of support from our community. And then also financial strategies, just to put together funding strategies that help us to be able to implement all of these items that we're starting to identify as needs for the community.
Based on not recovering costs, would that be grant strategies?
Grants are certainly an opportunity, looking for more partnership opportunities, like the Heritage Oaks Park site, the ropes course project. That's a good example of a partnership opportunity where we've been able to see some public improvements constructed by a private entity but made available to the public, and also generate revenue that we can then, put back into our parks and recreation system.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
You said the school district asked the Parks Commission to look at using the Westmore Oaks location. So the district approached the city, is that
Yes.
right?
Do you want to expand on that at all?
Hi. Actually, yes. So the history on this actually goes back to 2016, when I first came to the city, and we had regular meetings with Scott Landsberger before he left, and now Paul DeSario. And we had met early on with Scott Landsberger about utilizing the Westmore Oaks site for future field growth, whatever that could be. And at that, initially, they were not super interested in it, but then about a year later, so last year, in one of these quarterly meetings, Scott Landsberger did say, hey, we think we might be interested in having you guys, look at Westmore Oaks again as a potential dual-purpose site, not unlike Bright Park, Elkhorn Park, many of the other facilities that we have partnered on. And so it was just kind of a perfect timing, because we were getting ready to launch the Parks and Open Space Master Plan, and so we said, sure. But then we had to get our council's approval, because there is a cost involved in putting together a reuse plan. It's not like this is something the city's doing for free. So we had to go to the council and have a determination made that, yeah, we think it would be a great idea to see if there are opportunities at not only Westmore Oaks, but the school district also asked us to look at the Charter High School, which is the old Westmore Oaks. And so both of those sites are actually going to have reuse plans put together for consideration by both the school district and the city council. We hope to get the first ones out in April for Westmore Oaks, the old River City. We'll be meeting with the principal of the Charter High School, I think is it next week? This week. This week to begin that process. So again, as part of this bigger effort for the Parks and Open Space Master Plan, we'll be looking at both of those sites. But we'll be looking at them at kind of a different lens, more of how do those particular facilities fit in with the needs that have now been identified as a future need for the city as it relates to all of this data that we've now collected as part of this effort for the Parks and Open Space Master Plan. Piling that on top of what the school district needs at those sites, because obviously the educational their needs need to be brought into play as well. So that's why we're having to meet with the staff of those two facilities to incorporate those needs as well. So, yes, it was initially brought up by the school district to look at the reuse plans. I think some of the confusion has been that when we were going to do the Memorial Park ADA upgrades, there was a concern that we would have to completely close Memorial Park and that we would need an alternative site for Little League, of which I'll give you an update on that in a little bit. But that is no longer needed. And therefore, the initial contact about potentially putting Little League temporarily at the Westmore Oaks site, that was a city-initiated action. That was actually me going to Paul DeSario and saying, hey, could we potentially do that? So I think there's a little bit, I don't know that people completely understand that we had this bigger effort going on, and then we had this potential side deal going on, which is now no longer needed, because we have determined that we will be able to play the 2019 season at Memorial Park. If the design goes as we think it will, the preliminary construction schedule would show taking, March, April, May, and part of June, play the Little League season, and then begin construction in June of next year. So I hope that's helpful, because I know there has been a little bit of confusion and misinformation out about that.
And is your discussion grounds only?
Pardon?
Grounds only, not buildings?
Correct.
Thank you.
Only, very much like Bright Park, Elkhorn Park, a lot of the other multi-dual purpose facilities and agreements that we have with the school district.
And at Old Westmore Oaks, those are heritage oaks, aren't they? In that-
Oh, the
on
trees that are
campus?
there? I don't know the answer to that, but that will be taken into, all of that is taken into consideration when they do the reuse plan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, this is all good, all good.
So this is my last slide, actually, just talking about next steps. We are working throughout the project, really, with Zen City data integration. And so this is a way that the city, the community can use social media information to better identify what some of the hot buttons are in the community and the interest, and use that to help inform our process. So that's something that we'll be collecting information on throughout the duration of the project. But more immediate, we are working on a park-by-park improvement assessment. At the staff level, we have an interdisciplinary team of staff from the city. It's going park by park to identify the needs of each site. We're preparing a benchmark analysis, which looks at our programs, our offerings, compared to our benchmark cities in the region. And that's really what we're finding is it's comparing apples to oranges, because all of the parks and rec districts are so unique. Some are city-run, some are independent districts. But, we can look to that information to understand fees for a lot of our programs and services, like our rental fees, just how we compare to others. So it's, it is generating some helpful information for us. Our level of service standards for parks, facilities, amenities, Cindy touched on this. We weren't quite ready to roll it out this evening, but we are getting information that tells us that we need park acreage, we need play fields, we need basketball courts and baseball diamonds and soccer fields to support the growth that we anticipate in the future. And where those land ties into the next item, which is our equity mapping. So as part of our needs analysis, we're also looking at where our existing facilities are, where potential future facilities will be located based on planning efforts or development projects that are already underway, and where there are gaps so that we can make sure that people in our community have equitable access to recreation. And then, as Cindy mentioned, we'll touch on a little bit later, the Memorial Park ADA improvements. We're moving forward with the contract for that and updating our rec center business plan. I know that was a lot of information. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners? I have a few. The population survey, how was duplication addressed in terms of the respondents?
For the statistically valid survey,
Right.
there is no duplication.
Because if you did intercept and household,
The statistically valid survey, those are completely separate results. And then the intercept surveys that's just more general information. And so that's why when we had the needs assessment, there's this process our consultants use, and I can't quite tell you exactly how it is, but it does provide a weighted system so that the statistically valid information, weights a little bit differently than the general information we get, because now I do have information from everybody that submits comments through our website, and for SurveyMonkey, if somebody's already completed the survey, they can't complete it again with the same email address. Now, they can certainly use multiple email addresses to complete the survey information, but the information that came back was fairly balanced, with the exception of some upticks with the Memorial Park issue. We didn't get information back that really skewed the data. It's fairly balanced, so I think that we can feel pretty confident with the information that we received.
and Ms. Michael, can you break out Hispanic origins? I mean, that's such a broad category. Are our residents coming, can you give me an idea of the country of origin at all, or any cultural orientation rather than broadly Hispanic?
I can't with the information that I have, but I can certainly ask our consultant if they had more information that's just not reflected in the survey results I was provided.
And I was very buoyed to see that 39% of the respondents indicated a hope for cultural celebrations. And speaking for this commission, now that I've been so elected, I certainly hope that that's a focus. That's certainly something that we would be very interested in pursuing and finding out more about how we can fulfill that. And as I look through my notes, I think you've done a very thorough job in answering any of these little comments that I had going over, but certainly the 39% cultural celebrations is very encouraging, and the special events. And is it your opinion that the barn kind of fulfills that space for cultural events and celebrations, or would there be more of a neighborhood by neighborhood approach since we're so neighborhood driven here?
I think it would be both. We know that as a result of this planning effort, there's probably going to be a recommendation about it kind of formalizing our special events in the city, because we know there's a strong interest for more of them. But being thoughtful about how we strategically select them and fund them and locate them. So the barn will more than likely be the venue for some of the events. And so just going through a process of figuring out which ones do we want to have be city-sponsored events versus other ones that we just simply support private entities or other organizations hosting in our community. So and that will come up as part of this planning process as we continue to move forward, especially on the financial side and evaluating what it really takes to either host as a lead or support some of these events and what it generates for our community.
Very good. I know Sacramento Metropolitan Arts Commission is a major push through their consultants to drive tourism through more cultural events. So there might be some partnerships or looking at their plan to maybe piggyback off that. Any other questions or comments? Sam?
Yeah. So there was an RFP for trail expansion like a year or two ago, wasn't there?
Oh, that's it's the Southport levy.
Oh, the Southport Setback Levee Recreation Trail?
Yeah.
Yes. So that, we actually completed a report for the Southport Southport Setback Levee Recreation Trail. We received funding from DWR to complete that study, and basically the study demonstrated that it is feasible to construct a paved trail on top of the levee without damaging the integrity of the levee. It's actually very cost-effective because so much of the base work is already being done as part of the levee construction. And that plan also included looking at not just the paving of the Southport setback levee, but connections to other existing trails to create both a 10-mile loop and then a series of smaller internal loops within that larger 10-mile loop, providing access in the form of trailheads, identifying potential locations for those trailheads so that we can use those spaces as opportunities for people to park, for people to rest, for people to get information on what's happening on the levees, because there are areas that will be restricted seasonally based on levee work that needs to be done. So we did apply for a grant for through the Habitat Conservation Fund for funding to actually acquire some property to serve as one of the trailhead locations. And we also, we hope that if we are successful with that funding, we could actually apply for that program again to actually fund construction of the trailhead or contribute to the paving of the top of the levee trail. So that is available on our website, and we have a new updated city website. So if you go to our Parks and Rec Department page, you will find the Southport Setback Levee Recreation Trail report there.
Okay, awesome.
And I see on the agenda a recommendation that a workshop, that the commission goes to a workshop presentation on parks and open space. But is this brief considered that workshop today?
Yes, it is. Hoping
Okay.
just to get feedback from you on, the information that we've generated to date and any, any input that you want us to be considering as we move forward with the planning process.
I think from my perspective, arts, culture, and historic preservation, I think any avenues, the city's already doing a very good job in not plugging history, but honoring history in so many of our locations. And I know that is something that I know the youth in our community and the citizens appreciate very much. Just from mother-in-law conversations, I would say that that's something that if the commissioners are in agreement, I would like to see more of that and cultural activities and celebrations being part of the thought of any of the developments, because that's our mission.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very thorough presentation.
Could I ask a question about that? I was just kind of curious, were we able to track any youth participation in this process? I saw a little information. I was a little surprised that we didn't see more of that pop up in some of the feedback results.
Well, we do have youth participation information in all of our existing programs, and we've met with all of the non-city athletic programs in the community to better understand their anticipated growth and their current participation. And so we have gotten information based on our existing program offerings, and we're assuming that a lot of the youth parents are the ones who completed the survey work.
It's just maybe something, I think I was mostly surprised. I think I agree with the assessment. I think there was a lot there, and I definitely think the parks has a great foundation within the city. I think I was most surprised. I think I expected to see more addressed about youth, a lack of youth programming within the community, and I'm wondering if that was, well, I do agree that there was a lot of parents that probably participated. That may have been just not reaching out to some of those youth to know about the programming that they want. So that may be something as a potential next steps, is to maybe to specifically target a specific youth survey that would target and probably high school under, and see if that results in any additional, because if the folks that are in that target age stay in our community, they'll be the next generation of programming that we would need to look at. I would also say that they're probably in some of those results about time management and special events, that may be a group that isn't in the traditional going to exercise classes, because I saw that skew in and off. I agree. I think there wasn't a lot of huge surprises. I think that was the only one for me in reading it. I just thought, I just, in hearing so much about the community, folks really do out there think that there could be more done in the area of youth services. I definitely saw a great population with the senior services in the survey. I just was surprised I didn't see the same counterbalance with the youth. And so, again, if a quick survey would show that the survey came across, I just know that that's a group that probably wouldn't have participated as heavily.
Right, that's a really good point. I was going back through our 2003 Parks Master Plan document, and we actually did conduct a high school student survey as part of that effort. And I was thinking, it'd be so easy for us to do that, especially because, all of the kids, all they need is a link.
Yep.
And they'll fill it out very quickly online. So that's a really good suggestion. Thank you.
And I just want to thank, I know that there's a lot of feedback in here, and just, I think, again, the general consensus, the Parks Department is working so hard to just improve services and provide a big community service. So I think there's a lot of kudos in here for the department and what they've been doing, so much appreciated.
Anything further? Thank you so much. Very good report. Regular agenda, item number 4, consideration of Resolution 1801, setting the time and date for the 2018 regular meetings of the Arts, Culture and Historic Preservation Commission. Ms. Tuttle, you had a recommendation?
Yes, we would recommend that you adopt the resolution in support of the 4 dates as outlined in the staff report.
I'll move to approve the proposed commission schedule.
I'll second.
And where do I find that? Point of question?
It's the very last page of your packet. If you turn to the back of your very last page, the 4 dates are included in the resolution. They are March 26th, which is today, June 25th, 2018, September 24th, 2018, December 17th, 2018, and March 25th of 2019.
Thank you, all my locators. I appreciate it very much.
Sure.
Do I hear any motion to approve that calendar schedule for the meetings?
Actually, it would be approval of the resolution.
The approval of the resolution?
Correct.
I'll move to approve the resolution.
I'll second.
Any questions? Let's hear the vote. Aye.
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 The resolution has unanimously been approved. Moving to general administration function, Part 2, Number 5, the director's report.
Sure. First, I'm going to have Tracy give you an update on the Heritage Ropes course, because we thought that might be of interest to you as well, so I'll let her do that. Briefly?
Yes, we, for that site, we have 2 different efforts going on right now. We have the ropes course piece, and then we also applied for a grant through State Parks for the Outdoor Environmental Education Facilities Grant Program. We have not yet heard on that, but Clutterwald has been moving forward, working on their initial designs for the site, putting together their financing, and then securing the contract with Civil that will actually manage the design of the city's street frontage improvements. And so that's all moving forward right now. In fact, I actually just got on Facebook a link to a promotional video that they've put together that we can certainly share with the commission. But it looks really good, and it's exciting. So it's moving forward. We will probably be working within the city on reviewing plans for construction of the Clutterwald improvements for probably the next 4 months. And then tree care work would begin. Our street frontage improvements would start hopefully first. But there's some long lead items dealing with utilities and extending utilities to the site. And so that's really what's going to be kind of the driver of the schedule at this point. But yeah, I'll be sure to send a link to their promotional video.
Does that promotional video have preliminary design ideas for
It has
the
a few.
course?
It has a few sketches on there that I think look
Cool.
really interesting. So it'd
Nice.
be great to get feedback on that.
Thanks, Tracy. I also want to provide you a update on the Assemble Sacramento, the Nest project. This item did go to the council last week for approval of an agreement that it would allow Assemble Sacramento to construct a rest stop and hydration station along the Clarksburg Branch Line Trail. So the agreement it's almost like an encroachment permit, and then it also has an agreement that the city will accept those improvements once they are constructed on city-owned land. So that project will be moving forward. We anticipate that Assemble Sacramento will be submitting plans over the next few weeks, and then the planning department kind of takes that project over as it's going through the planning process and being built. So we'll continue to provide you updates as they come forward.
Did the location stay the same?
The location did stay the same. Assemble Sacramento and Our Lady of Grace School did reach an agreement verbally on on what improvements that Our Lady of Grace would like to see on their site in order to address some of the concerns that they articulated. They include the construction of a ball wall, tree plantings, and then moving the fitness array that is right next to the fence line to another location at the school site. And so that was that those would be constructed at no cost to Our Lady of Grace. Assemble Sacramento would take care of the costs of those 3 specific items, which were brought to Assemble Sacramento by the Our Lady of Grace Diocese. Any other questions on the nest? Memorial Park, I did mention, again, this item also went to council last week. They did award the design contract to Mark Thomas and Company to do the ADA improvement designs. Again, there was a little bit of misinformation out in the community, so I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, but the thumbnail sketch is that the city was party to a litigation in 2010. As part of that litigation, the city was required to do ADA improvements to several parks as well as curb cuts to several streets. Memorial Park is one of those parks that had to be ADA retrofitted by April of 2020. And therefore, the award of this design contract begins that process to determine what we can do there as far as being able to bring it into ADA compliance. Basically, the entire site is non-ADA compliant. Restrooms, snack bar, dugouts, score booths, having access to the horseshoe pits, access to the basketball court, access to the play structure. So basically, the entire site and paths of travel. So we did, again, the council awarded a contract to Mark Thomas and Company to design those ADA improvements, and based on what we have to do, which is set by state law, it's not anything that we have control over, will drive what ultimately that facility will look like at the end of the day. We did stress that we would like to maintain as many of the ball fields as possible. We don't know how many we will be able to maintain based on having to make wider dugouts and things of that nature and paths of travel and that type of stuff. So this contract will actually give us multiple designs to be able to look at so that the neighbors and Little League and everybody else who utilizes that park can have a say in what it ultimately, based on the options that are presented, will look like. So any questions on Memorial Park ADA improvements?
Well, since we are a baseball town and we have that lovely baseball sculpture out here, is there any art in public places for Memorial Park? Is there any opportunity for that?
Probably not, only because the budget for this particular improvement is extremely tight. It's $1 million to do probably $1.3 million to $1.5 million worth of improvements, so I'm already scraping money together. But obviously, if there is ever an opportunity to do that, we will do it. And it could be that Little League or some other private entity we might be able to partner to have them come in to provide something like that.
It seems like if there was ever an opportunity for fundraising, that the parents and the residents certainly have a deep well of affection for that particular park, as
Absolutely.
I've noted.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. I do have one other item that I'd like to share with you tonight, is that on Friday, we reopened Elkhorn Park, and if you've not been there, you really should go by. It's just Tracy and Sam Cooney, our superintendent of parks, and Chris Sarofsky, our project manager, did just a phenomenal job cobbling together a multitude of funding sources and a little from this and a little from that. And if you haven't been over there, it's just phenomenal. And speaking of cultural, there's a new barbecue there and covered area where people can meet and eat and picnic, and their kids can play on the play, and next to that is an adult fitness, so they can all get fit together. And it has the first, what are they, expression swings? It has the first expression swings in the city, and an expression swing is where the adult sits in the swing and a child can go into one of the bucket seats and you swing together, and they're it was really, really cool to see it. And there is a video, which we'll also send that video to you as well. And the last few seconds of this little boy and his mom on those expression swings makes everything worthwhile, just the giggling and the laughing. And so if you get a chance, go by Elkhorn Park. It is, again, it's a site that we share with the school district. So it's, just a really good example of how, you can take lands that were currently maybe underutilized and have it benefit both not only the school, but the community. And it's an intergenerational park as well. So really, really excited about that. And then last but not least, in May, we'll be reopening Bright Park with the new, shade structure is already up there and some new facilities there as well. And we'll keep you posted about that. So that concludes my report unless you have any questions.
I did have one question I forgot
Sure.
about on the trails. So the nest is going to have some sort of water there.
It is a
Right.
hydration station, that is correct. It will have water,
Like
and
the only trail, that would be the only water on the trail system.
that is correct, currently, that is correct.
Is there any plan for the Southport Levee trail system to have water?
Not yet, but it's a great idea. That whole system of loops and ladders, we'll want to look at that. And there may be more opportunities for like hydration at the trailheads. So Tracy mentioned how we're looking at potentially securing that site through a grant. And that's actually a really good idea, is to maybe make sure that we include hydration at trailheads. And
That would be fantastic. I run a lot, and I run on that trail all the time. And it used to be that I'd be like, should I go into Target completely sweaty and just like get the drinking fountain?
yeah, there will definitely be, and we hope that you use it. Activation of that trail will be very, very important. So, there will be a hydration for both humans and dogs, right? And humans and animals. So, yeah.
Hydration's important, thank you. Ms. Tuttle, is there any update on the art for Rayleigh's Landing? The
NEA?
The sign that was at
Oh, you
the
mean
pier.
Mill Street Pier?
Mill Street Pier.
Mill
pardon me.
Street Pier. No, I don't think there has been anything since it's been here. And so I think it's just the artist is in the throes of developing the piece. I've not heard of anything that I'm aware of. So I haven't heard that it's not on schedule. We did have a fire at that pier. I think you may have known that two of the pilings that are in the water next to that pier burned. And so I think there was a little bit of concern about how that may impact this art piece, and I know that they were going to consult with the artist to make sure, but,
Katie Jacobson doesn't have an update right at this time.
and so Katie didn't, oh, great, she just checked it. Katie Jacobson did not have an update at this time. Hoo-hoo, thank you. Efficiency, wow.
But the commission would like any updates as they, particularly
Absolutely.
the opening of that
Oh,
art
yeah,
piece.
absolutely, we'll definitely let you know.
And the sidewalk poem.
Yeah, the Jeff
sidewalk.
Noor poetry piece.
Oh, that's Katie as well. Yeah, I have not heard any new news about that as well.
Because I was concerned the last time about the length of the lines being truncated and maybe seeing the poem as a whole somewhere along that area. Because you truncate it too much to fit the sidewalk, and you lose whatever it is that was voted upon.
Right, I have not had an update on that, but we can definitely check in with her to see if one's warranted, and we'll definitely bring it back to you.
Great. And the art gallery, I sent to the other commissioners pictures from Day of the Dead, the children's paintings, which I was so impressed with, and that's wonderful. I was wondering about the current Yolo County usage of Gibson House and how that impacts us and our residents as an art facility, whether West Sacramento participates in any way in that usage of that facility.
Not to my knowledge. It's in Woodland, and it's operated by the Yolo County Board of Supervisors, oversees that facility. And to my knowledge, at least as long as I've been here, we're not a party to that facility at all.
It would be important to get updates, though, so our residents who were interested in art opportunities other than the Crocker, but here in Yolo County, I don't know as much about what's taking place there as I should, really. So maybe I'll just look into it.
Actually, if you contact the Yolo County County Administrator's Office, they can let you know who the staffer is that's working on that particular project, and I'm sure they'd be happy to add you to like a notification list or a mailing list for that facility.
Great. Any other future item requests? Okay, I'll look for then that email on the railroad, that the resend on that. And hearing no other items, we will now adjourn, if there's nothing else from staff.
No.
We will now adjourn the meeting of the Arts and Historic Commission until June 25th.
Thank you.